our final guest speaker for today, Miss ElKhatib. And Miss ElKhatib will be joining us to share her experience on how to raise above educational challenges with OLAVATED. Ms. Ola is a teacher at North London Collegiate School, Dubai. She holds a master's degree in educational studies from the University of Wollongong in Dubai. Ola is also a well-being and mental health coach. She is the co-founder of OLAVATED. Thanks for being with us today, Ms. Ola, and you can take it from here.
Hi, Ms. Hazza. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me tonight. I hope you're having a wonderful weekend. It's Friday, usually a great start to the weekend. Please allow me to share my screen. And I'll just go on slideshow mode.
Okay, you can see it now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Today's session is going to be focused on rising above educational challenges with OLAVATED. OLAVATED comes from the verb elevate education, but I used my name instead. So that's from a marketing perspective. I just decided to put my name there. Not many people are called Ola, so I just decided to use it. So before I dig into how to rise above educational challenges, what are they? In many cases, people can feel them, but lack awareness of how to actually express these challenges. So I am going to surprise you with a question that's really addressed a lot in research, but not many people are aware of. What comes to your mind when we just say schools versus jail or prison? Can I see some answers in the chat, please? Limitations. Thank you, Ms. Azza. What else? What can you think of when we say schools versus jail? Rules and duties. Thank you, Ms. Azza. I'll give it 10 more seconds. Micromanagement. I love that, Hiba. Oh, lack of freedom. Micromanagement. Yes. Tell me about that. Learning in a safe place. Thank you. Khulud. All right. Actually, research shows that, especially, we usually look at the Western world as if they have everything right. In fact, research says that their schools are built and designed by the same engineering and designing companies that are in charge of building jails. And let go of that, even if we ignore that fact, the fact that all students wear the same uniform and they all eat at the same time. Even for teachers, sometimes they have to just eat in break or in lunchtime, if they have lunch or if they have break. The fact that there is a very tough schedule that everyone has to follow. The fact also that you don't have much freedom in designing the curriculum or remapping the policies and everything. So there are loads of similarities, more than we can even cover and count in just a simple one session. And therefore, many teachers and many educators and even students can feel not so comfortable. They feel that this place is not getting the best out of them being in school. And that's why it's 2023. We are trying to find as many solutions as possible. We're trying to incorporate technology. What we are after really is more freedom in education. And people think of freedom as just physical freedom, but the real freedom starts from the mind. It really is a state of mind. And that's how, yes, and the soul, it's very spiritual. And that's how we start to be free. And then when you start to become free inside, that's where then you can control your freedom from the outside. So this is why research shows that it has to start with self-awareness, this freedom. Freedom is not actually gained. Freedom is earned through hard work. Freedom is to be created. So to start with self-awareness, educators are encouraged to dig deeper into the why. Why did I decide to become a teacher? And why am I still a teacher until now? How aligned was my initial reason to my reason now? How aligned are they? Are they similar? Are they so different? What's the reason if they are similar? What's the reason if they are different? And how is my why contributing to my well-being and fulfillment? And also, another element of self-awareness is to understand your strengths. If this profession is not allowing you to use your strengths or is making you lack awareness of your strengths in a way that's causing you self-doubt or confusion, then you're lacking self-awareness because you're not bringing your best self to this profession. And unfortunately, research says that in education, these standards of performance are not designed to motivate you as a teacher. They are not designed to bring the best out of you. And they are not designed in a way that's aligned with your well-being or with your happiness. A lot of it is influenced by politics and socioeconomic requirements for the country. So it doesn't really consider your strengths, your core values, and of course, it doesn't consider your triggers. And therefore, this is a survey that I highly recommend that everybody takes. It's free. It's called the Character Strengths Survey. And by doing this survey, you will have a free result of your top 3 or 4 character strengths. And then there is another paid version where you can get a more detailed analysis of your character. But I would definitely recommend it for people to go for the free version. I will share it in the chat. Please go for it. I'll share it at the end of the session. So when we discuss self-awareness, in addition to the why, the strengths and the core values and the triggers, it's really important to be aware of how you perceive yourself. What is your self-concept? And what are your thoughts? What are your feelings? What's your body perspective? How do you look like when you are in the classroom or when you are in a professional meeting? Are you still wearing that smile when you are in a meeting or when you are teaching a lesson? Do you look the same when you are with your family and when you are, or also when you are at work? How different are you? Do you feel like you're wearing a completely different hat when you are at work, or are you still yourself? And emotions. The difference between feelings and emotions is simple, but it's also complicated. So feelings can be more simple. Hunger, for example, is a feeling. Being cold or too warm is a feeling. But emotions are more complex because if you are feeling nostalgic, you're missing your friend, that is an emotion. And what makes it really complicated is that feelings can trigger emotions. So for example, if you had a fight with a student, let's say a conflict with a student when the room was too cold, then without even being aware, sometimes whenever you are in a cold classroom, you would feel really anxious and uncomfortable because that feeling of being cold is triggering those emotions that you had when you had that conflict. So when we lack awareness of what triggers us or of how we feel or what emotions we have, what thoughts we have, we then compromise our own well-being. And it's easy to always blame the profession. I'm not saying it's an easy profession, but it's much better to take control and to really dig deeper into the why, because the why is always your starting point to the how. The why is really what leads you to find your how. How do I get out of this challenging situation? How do I improve my stamina? How do I enjoy better well-being? And so on. So high five. If this relates to you, you can just give me a reaction or a message in the chat. Heba says, here we can use the ruler acronym used in emotional intelligence. Yes, there are so many of them that are used to gauge or assess your own well-being. And I will talk about the PERMA model shortly. Thank you so much, Heba. So again, back to my required high five, please. High five, or just give me a thumbs up or type in the chat if this resonates with you. The first picture is for teachers in September, and I hope that this is not going to be any of us in April this year. And it's actually a joke, but it's aligned with research, which I'm going to show you now. It says here that 72% of all education professionals would describe themselves as stressed. And it's really funny when you have some conversations with people who are in managerial roles, because they keep saying that, you know, it's just like any other job. Nothing can be always perfect, and everything can be improved. They talk about it like just like another marriage relationship. Can you improve your marriage? Certainly, yes. You can always improve your marriage. Can you improve your relationship with your children? And the answer is, of course, yes. You can always aim for better relationship with your children. And the problem is, that's true in principle. You would agree with them. But the other part of the truth is it has to be from both sides, and it has to be from educators and from schools as well. But the good news is that even if schools are not getting on board at the moment, teachers and educators can lead that change simply by greater awareness. This is, of course, cited by research, so it's not me making up things. Okay, so I guess the problem now, or the issue, is clear. We need a systematic approach to maintain our well-being and spirits high. And this is an evidence-based or informed model. It's called the PERMA model for well-being. And it's, for me, every time I discuss it with teachers or do a training around it, I always gain new insights, no matter how many times I have come across it. It's so insightful, supported with evidence from science and research, and it never gets old, because we live in a very quick-paced time now, and every time you come across it, you will make new revelations and resolutions. So I hope you will enjoy it with me. The P stands for positive emotions, and the normal ratio for people is to have 3 positive emotions versus 1 negative emotion. And positive emotions don't just mean to be happy all the time, because that's a very simple approach to well-being. Well-being is not happiness all the time. Well-being is respect, when you feel that you admire someone's work ethic, when you feel that you are growing, when you feel that you are admiring their work, you're learning from someone, you're interested, you're hopeful. These top 10 positive emotions, which you can see on the blue picture: joy, pride, amusement, serenity, inspiration, interest, hope, awe, or deep respect, and love. Research shows that those people who enjoy these positive emotions within the normal ratio of 3 positive to 1 negative, they enjoy long-term health outcomes, and they are 78% less to face early death or mortality, and they have they have a wide awareness. So these top 10 positive emotions broaden awareness, novel thoughts, activities, and relationships. And the idea here, people think that emotions are out of control. And what I'm arguing for is that they are not 100% completely under your control all the time. Yes, absolutely. They are influenced by accidents, incidents that happen all across conditions, circumstances, absolutely, yes. But they are also never 100% out of your control. So that's my argument. I'd say, yes, they are not 100% under your control all the time, but they are never out of your control. There's always a way, and it will be back to awareness. Whenever you feel that your emotions are compromised, it will be back to awareness, because the why leads you to the how. I hope this makes sense. Please do type in the chat any questions or comments that you have. I like to multitask here, so I like to present while viewing your comments. It's never an issue for me. So how you feel as an educator matters. How you feel is important, and you're not being, you know, for some people, they think of themselves as being soft and fluffy if they are expressing their emotions, but your emotions do matter. And you're not being soft, you're not being fluffy, you're just being a human being, and you're rising above challenges when you acknowledge and express your emotions. It's important that when you are reflecting on your emotions, people tend to only think about the negatives, but my recommendation is to also reflect on what's going well and why is it going well? Where's the alignment here between what's going well and my values, my strengths, and my desires, really, or my goals? So that's the P. The E is for engagement. And how do you know if you are engagement? If you are engaged? How do you know if you are engaged? There are signs of engagement here. So if you don't feel time, if you don't feel you're putting in effort, but it's not too challenging for you, if you have a sense of mastery and a sense of selflessness where you don't actually feel yourself, you're so engaged that you would actually say something that you may even reconsider later. You're like, I don't know how I said that, but that lecture or that lesson made me just say things, you know, that's where you are absolutely engaged. And research says that when teachers are engaged in their own teaching practice, students are engaged as well. So when teachers, in other words, when teachers enjoy greater well-being, students will enjoy greater well-being as well. Another very good sign for engagement is when your head, heart, and hand are together, working on one thing. You experience that flow, and there's the triangle of high performance that happens when you are engaged. There will be always an element of productivity, learning, and creativity. When teachers plan their lessons in a way that accommodates for that high level of engagement, not just for students, but also for themselves, when they plan their lessons in such a way, just, you know, despite of standards, inspection, observations, you're not doing this for anyone, you're doing this for the sake of your own well-being and for the sake of your students' well-being as well. Khulud, yes, absolutely. Thank you. The student and teacher interaction, and in other words, just engagement. Absolutely. Someone else said something on the chat. How to be more engaged on difficult and hard days. Hiba, that's a great question. Thank you so much. Let me share my rule with you. I teach all the grades besides my other jobs that I'm doing as a teacher trainer and as a coach and as a founder. And what I do in these hard days is empathy. When you empathize with your students and when you think that if it's too much for me, then it's definitely too much for them. When you just make that realization, you will definitely find a way to make things as humane as possible for you and for your students as well. These difficult or hard days, Hiba, will require techniques where you are making students see themselves in the curriculum. There is a strategy that I love, which is called head, heart, hand, and trash bin. So you can do it as a reflection on any unit. You know, that day where you just look into your students' eyes and you can tell, oh, I can't really start a new lesson. I know that this is just not the day where I can just go on according to my plan. I have to have a plan B. That's where you can use this strategy: head, heart, hands, and trash bin. How so? You ask them to either reflect on the previous lesson or on a lesson that you just finished recently or on a whole unit, your choice. You ask them basically to reflect on any piece of their learning. And what head means is that it's something that they have recently learned as an information that they want to keep in their head. Heart is something that they liked, that they want to keep in their heart. Hands is something that they want to do because it's so practical to them that they just want to implement practically in their lives. And finally, trash bin is something they didn't really like and they want to forget about. You will be always surprised whenever you do this at how much fun this strategy, no matter how simple it is, and it requires no planning, yet it brings so much fun and it brings things at ease. I hope you try it out, and I hope you let me know how it works. Reach out to OLAVATED on all social media platforms. It's the same, OLAVATED, OLAVATED. All right, so that's for engagement. The next one is the relationships, because it's PER, P-E-R, so relationships. Relationships is something so important for your own well-being as well as for your students' well-being. And people think of teaching as just a very simple job. It's not. It's really a complex job, especially nowadays. And what people don't recognize is that to be a good teacher or a successful teacher, what you do is actually leadership. It's not just teaching anymore. It's not the same sort of role that we were used to when we were students back, I will say, in the 90s. I don't know if some of us were students in the 80s, but I certainly was a student in the 90s. So the leadership elements that are so important to build these relationships are three. You make your students or your team, if you are also a leader, you make your team feel safe, seen, and that they belong. And if you make them achieve these three elements, what happens is you build trust. And whenever that trust is built, well-being will be high, because what compromises well-being is the lack of trust, really. Your inability to feel trusted or your inability to trust the other person. And that's where thoughts play in our head, and that's where we start to look for a way out. And that's where we feel trapped, and where school feels like jail, because you're not just trusted, you're micromanaged, and you don't feel that you can just do your own thing. So here is the key solution. You make others feel safe, seen, and that they belong. It sounds simple, but it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of awareness, cultivating that awareness on a daily basis. So another successful element to build effective relationships is to play. All mammals play, and learning has to be fun. Staff meetings in schools have to be fun. And even if you're not the official leader who's in charge of conducting those meetings, don't undermine your influence. Leadership is not about authority or just position. Leadership is about influence. How much influence do you bring to your team, regardless of your position? You know, these playful activities are so important for even adults, not just children. And as you can see in the picture here, all mammals participate in playful activities. What do? They actually reduce self-consciousness, which again refers back to engagement, because you don't feel yourself. And they dissolve power dynamics where a leader or a person in authority can be equal. So they embrace that model of equality and equity and partnership, making sure that it's really a safe environment for everyone. So it goes back again to the leadership elements of being safe, seen, and feeling that you belong, so that you feel trusted and that you can trust others as well. My final point here would be around the rapid rapport. Research says that only 15 to 20 people will really make actual changes in your life. And successful teachers are those who are one of these 15 to 25 people in students' lives. It sounds like a simple thing to do, but it really takes a lot of work. But that's the whole point. When we shift our focus from just doing the external work, documentation, planning, marking, assessments, all these things are external work. But when it comes to your well-being, it's really about the inner work. Or as Khulud said earlier, the soul, the spiritual, the spirit's state or status, and so on. So that's for relationships. PERMA, P, positive emotions, E for engagement, and R for relationships. These are a little bit of more techniques on how to successfully build relationships. One of them is the active constructive responding instead of the passive constructive or passive destructive or active destructive. What we are looking for is the active constructive. And to do that, you need to practice what comes next. So you need to ask the correct questions. You need to practice deep listening. And you need to really be vulnerable, of course, with boundaries, but you really need to be more, we all need to be more vulnerable in education because everyone seems to just struggle in silence. There isn't enough vulnerability, definitely, according to research, and we need to embrace that more. There's also the pocket compassion, where A and B will share things that they have never shared. So let me say, for example, my son is graduating. I feel completely overwhelmed today. That's from A, and then B would share something different. They would practice listening to each other. You can make your students do that activity. They love it. And it doesn't have to be about the lesson. It doesn't have to be planned. It doesn't have to be shared with the whole classroom. It can be just between the both of them, A with B and B with A, and so on. The last one is empathy upload. And I love to use this one whenever I have a class that's so active, like a popcorn, like active more than needed, where they come with all of that excessive energy and you just want them to have a seat so that you can start your lesson. So I'm like, let's do the empathy upload. And that's where we simply breathe in and out and stare at each other with no smile, no laugh, nothing. We just look at each other for a couple of minutes and breathe in and out. It makes wonders. It's like meditation, but with our eyes open and with maintaining that eye contact. What does that actually do? Increased positive emotions. So the PERMA model is really hard to separate. It's really hard to separate those elements from each other because they feed into each other. So managing those relationships will enhance the positive emotions and the self-esteem, and it will decrease the sense of loneliness, of course. So that's for the R, relationships. This is a very successful model when it comes to enhancing the quality of your relationships. I call it the DD-DO model, DD-DO. So the D is for discover. When there is, let's say you have a student who says to you, I feel that you're not being fair to me, Miss Ola, and then instead of you getting mad and feeling so upset and you're like, how come you don't see how hard I work? Why are you accusing me of being unfair? You will actually ask more questions to discover where that feeling of lack of fairness comes from. So you'll be like, why or what makes you feel that I'm being unfair to you? And that's where the student will say, you never pick me, I always raise my hand, and you never choose me to answer. And that's where you're like deep in now. So you'll go deeper into the issue. And then you might ask them, why do you assume I'm not choosing you? Or how many times are you actually raising your hand where I am not choosing you? Or what might be another view of this situation? What other perspectives would you like to consider? And we finally reach to an agreement. So for example, if that student wants to be picked for answer, I can ask them, what's the minimum? How many times at least do you want to, to have that opportunity to share your voice? And let's say sometimes, when you offer students this choice, they will surprise you that they are not so demanding. They just want to feel that they have that space to make demands, even if they don't make use of it. So sometimes they will tell you, well, just 2 times a day, that would be great. And it's not too hard for me. Okay, deal. Let's clarify our achievable steps. You're going to raise your hand every time. I'm going to record it that you have to have 2 times per day where you get a chance to participate and share your voice. We simply summarize what we had agreed on. And it's always successful. I just had a meeting with a parent today, and I was discussing with them, their child is nearly failing, literally failing in my subject. He's like getting a very low grade. And I know that we are still early to tell, but that's where I am. I'm like, if he continues to do this, to perform in such a way, that's where we are going, because it's the half term now, and I need to just give you these heads up before it's the end of term. And it never fails to really amaze me, because once you tell them, I will be your son's Jenny, I need you to have a conversation with your son, and I need 3 requests from your son. How can I help him to do better? How can I help him to do well in his assessments and to actually give me more enthusiasm in classes? And the parents are always surprised that I'm not only giving them demands, but I'm actually willing to listen to their requests. And it really does help with your own well-being as well. I'm not doing this because, you know, I'm bending a knee and because I'm being ashamed of what I'm doing. No, not at all. But I believe that well-being is for everyone. And when your students are enjoying a greater level of well-being, then you will enjoy a greater level of happiness and well-being as well. And it goes vice versa too. So that's why I feel in education, we really need to embrace collaboration, partnership, equality, and equity more than what we are now. The M is for meaning, and that's really the most challenging part for many educators, because when we signed up to become teachers, we wanted to inspire the young people. But then you're surprised that no, that's not simply the job. You know, it's a lot about more than that. So how much alignment is there in your current role with your own values? How much sense does it make to you to do what you get to do on a daily basis? Are you able to make sense of your experiences, cognitions, behaviors, thoughts? Are you able to seek purpose and cohesion within a broader life story? Does what you do in school add up to the bigger picture? Because if it doesn't, that's where your well-being is compromised, because you're lacking meaning of what you do. If you check this ship for me, or the boat, at the bottom, you have the security. How secure are you in doing what you do? How confident? And then the growth. And that's the part where, unfortunately, a study done in Australia, imagine that, it's Australia and it's a big one, and it's a recent one, just in 2023, they made a study to find that, unfortunately, teachers who have been in the classroom for 20 years were performing in a very similar way to those who are fresh graduates. And this shows you that there's more to growth as a problem than just blaming teachers, because it's a whole system. But like I said, when you start from self-awareness, when you start from focusing on your why, your strengths, your core values, you are going to influence those who are around you. And that's how systems change. When more people are aware and when more people are embracing change, we are also a part of the puzzle, whether we acknowledge it or not. So growth is really important. Is it 1 year of experience that we tend to repeat and repeat year after year? Or does each year add to the bigger picture and the bigger puzzle? That's the question. And finally, contribution. Does this boat go somewhere? Is it contributing to something else? Or is it just so limited? Because this feeling of being limited, again, back to the jail versus school acronym or metaphor, it does compromise your well-being. I'm going to look into the chat. Giving the teacher and student the space, teaching process will be interesting. Absolutely, Khulud. Thank you so much. Yes, it's all about space. And even if the school is not giving that space, teachers can always say, yes, yes, we will do, and then close their door and do their own thing, as long as it brings good results. Nobody's going to, you know, penalize you for good results in the end. So take risks. So the A stands for accomplishment, and because teachers always set the bar high and they try to do everything perfectly, sometimes they fail to recognize and celebrate those small wins, and that compromises their well-being, our ability to really be grateful and to celebrate and to be proud of, no matter how small the progress is, but to just celebrate it. Despite the standards, these standards are not helping. So we shouldn't measure our success by the performance standards all the time. Yes, of course, we do our best to exceed these standards, but they are not how we measure our own progress. Find your own way. What will make you say that, yes, I have made progress? Decide on that, because for many people, they don't even make this conversation, not even internally with their own self. They don't know what success looks like to them and what small progress looks like. And that compromises well-being as well. So make sure that you have that scale and you know, how do I celebrate my small win? The last one in the PERMA model is health, which is for physical health, your ability to sleep, your ability to connect with nature, enjoy outdoor time, complete daily activities, right? Like exercise and like going to work and so on. It is really important for educators to prioritize physical health, because physical health and mental health are very much aligned, very connected to each other. And it really makes me just so sad when I speak to teachers or educators who say, well, I've never been to a gym in my life, or I've never tried yoga or Zumba or whatever in my life. And I'm like, but these solutions are there for a reason. People are trying to do these activities because they actually work. And nobody is born with motivation. Many people are just waiting for motivation. Don't wait for motivation. Motivation happens when you see results, and not the other way around. Or some people, they wait for confidence. Well, I'm not confident enough to just try myself out with a group of people. But here's the thing with confidence. Confidence is only built through hardship. You throw yourself at risk at first. It either works, you gain confidence, or you fail, you learn, and you gain confidence. Either way, you gain confidence, but it starts with challenge and not the other way around. So let's not wait to become confident or motivated to try new things. We have to try new things first, despite how scary or uncomfortable that might feel. And then when things work well for us, we will celebrate that win. You see, so they are really connected and intertwined with each other. If you are improving your confidence, then you're able to celebrate those small wins, which is achievement. And that's where you're able to enjoy more positive emotions, which is the peace. So they are really relevant to each other. It's very hard to separate them. We are just separating them to simplify. But when you do them in actual life, they are just really connected. So thank you so much for your time. I haven't forgotten about the link, which I have promised you to send. I will send it right now. That's for the character strengths survey. I will send it right now. Please let me know if you have any questions. Connect with me on OLAVATED. I'd love to keep the conversations going. And my sincere thanks to Ms. Azza and to Ms. Isra for having me today. Teach Ujin is just so amazing. And I love them. And I love you all so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you a lot, Ms. Ola. I really enjoyed your session today. and I felt safe, seen, and belong. So thank you a lot.
I'm glad. Thank you so much. That's really my pleasure. Thank you.
If you have any questions to Ms. Ola, please type them in the chat box. Lovely presentation, yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Any questions, please? Thanks a lot. Thank you, Hannah. Wow. Thanks a lot. Of course. I loved your insights, Mrs. Ola. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, all. Thank you so much, Miss Azza. I hope you will have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you for your participation and your lovely informative session. Thank you and see you, inshallah. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Now, dear audience, we come to the end of our meeting today. Thank you for your participation, your attendance, and we would like to thank you a lot for joining us tonight. We hope that you found today's event of benefit for you. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and to know more about our upcoming events and offers. Thanks again. See you tomorrow and have a lovely evening. Goodbye.